enlighten your mind and your soul. So kick back, relax, and learn the secret to success when you take the high road.
Good friends, hard to find.
Hey, it's Nancy Yearout, and welcome to High Road to Humanity today. Hey, this is a show that everybody needs to hear. We have a wonderful guest. Her name is Rashmi Khilnani. She's coming to me today from New Delhi in India. She actually channels Buddha. And Buddha has a lot of information that will help all of us, especially at this time with everything going on in the world. But before I bring Rashmi on, let me give you just a little bit of information about her. She's the author of Buddha Speaks, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. She's also the author of The Divine Mother Speaks, The Healing of the Human Heart. She's an international teacher of Usu, Tibetan, Karunu, Reiki, Raku, Ki, and original 7-degree Reiki master teachers and practitioners. She's been channeling the Ascended Masters for the last 15 years, making these teachings simple and accessible to people at all levels. Rashmi, are you there? Welcome to High Road to Humanity.
Hi, Nancy. Namaste from lockdown, India.
What's going on in India right now, Rashmi? How are things going for the people?
Well, the whole country's in lockdown, and I'm in the heart of the city of New Delhi, the largest democracy on the planet, next to the Prime Minister's house and 30 acres of trees and the Ashok, it's an iconic hotel. And there are very few, there's just me and a couple of guests and the staff and the trees and the birds and, it's a time for everybody to go within, which is what I've been doing for years. But time for humanity to wake up.
I agree. And that's what I always say, wake up and start paying attention. I wanted to ask if you would tell the audience, how did it come about that you started channeling Buddha?
Well, as you've, in the introduction, you said, I was teaching Reiki masters and practitioners across the globe and became a healer across the globe and out of my place in London. And then I chose to bring everything to zero for source. So, which is what we're all doing at this time. I brought, my home, my health, my partnership, my being a teacher of healers and practitioners and being a world healer to zero. I chose on some level, higher level, not conscious, but I chose and asked for total zero pointing for source, and then I got cancer. I was in hospital, and then I brought Reiki to the hospital. And I went to America straight after very intensive treatments, and I channeled The Divine Mother Speaks, The Healing of the Human Heart, just before I went to the States as I was selling my temple where I had taught for so many years. And then in America, I just met Bob Friedman. It just happened through, supporting another author in Charlottesville. And that's how I got published. And then he requested that I channel a book on the Buddha, and I said I don't do that to request. But then I went back to London because in between I had to come back to London, every 3 months from the States. And the voice, my Buddha nature from within me started speaking, and I asked questions and answers for this wake up time and this time of where everybody will zero point, so that we come into the new heaven on earth energies.
Right. And that's when you started to ask questions and you were able to channel him. I'm going to tell you this book, and you guys, it's called Buddha Speaks. If you're watching on video, I'm holding it up. It's to the Buddha nature within. And with everything going on, in this world right now, it's important to bring in the energies. And I'm going to quote what Buddha says in the book, because I wrote down so many different things. This is a wonderful book to read right now or anytime. It says Buddha talks about coming from fear or coming from love, which is something that we're all in the process of right now because everybody's so afraid. Can you address the fear and love thing, Rashmi?
Yeah, I mean, the truth is every human soul has the answers within them, and this Buddha nature exists within each and every one of us. And it's when the eye opens and you move from the chatter of the monkey mind into discernment that comes from detached witnessing of the movies and dramas of your life as the producer, director, actor of that movie. And so 3D has taught us conditioning programming, a fear-based programming that is, it is not, it is an artificial program that was put into humanity to control and enslave. So after 26,000 years, now it's time to wake up. So it's time to come out of the sleep cycle of fear, limitation, and control of a limited mind to the unlimited spectrum of the heart, the soul, which is unlimited, which is multidimensional, which is quantum, and that is nothing but pure love. And within that space, all of us are part of that same source, which is also explained in quantum physics, that, our unity, our oneness, as different fractals of the same source energy. I don't know if I'm being clear with what I'm saying.
No, you are completely, because it's time for us to all go within. And that's what's happening right now with this virus. I feel like it's pushing us to stay at home. This is what I feel. I want to know what you think. I feel like it's pushing us to stay home and to go within. We're being forced to go within. And I think that people who are meditating and connecting with God will be centered. You know, I talked to somebody who said that the Chinese do this automatically. And I had mentioned that to you when I spoke to you the other day, that, you know, us here in the West, we haven't gotten it as well as some other people, but I think we're starting to get it. What are your feelings on that as far as people going within now?
Yes, we've reached critical mass. Some of the light workers across the globe have been working for years and lifetimes, and ultimately every soul on the planet has chosen this. We were born for this time. We have come from many different time-space continuums for this grand experiment of 8 billion humans waking up to unity awareness, Christ consciousness that has nothing to do with Christianity, and the second coming of Christ is that Christed nature, that unified field of oneness, seeing everyone as that one field, and at the same time being unique in our own expression of that source energy at this time. So, yes, this coronavirus is a catalyst, which
Yeah,
was going or another, for every human to come out of the complexity and the complete control by a few people and aliens, and the story goes on. It doesn't really matter. It's all one at the end of the day. It's like snakes and ladders, and now it's time to win the game. And
right,
winning the game,
exactly.
to wake up again to who we are, which is unlimited. And and one great way, as you say, to do that is through meditation. And meditation doesn't have to be, as the Buddha did under the Bodhi tree. It could even
Right.
be quietly, being in nature, just being in silence, being with the breath, or even just being the detached observer, the compassionate observer of monkey mind and of, the outer reality coming within, within. So taking our sovereignty back to the energy within.
Right. Well, Buddha says, stop seeing yourself as this or that. Become global, become cosmic, and become your multi-dimensional being. And that's what you're talking about. We have a lot more to us than we don't even use our abilities. And now we'll start to use our abilities. Isn't that right?
Yes, as you slow down and as one begins to breathe deeply and connect to the breath, connect to yogic practices, which Buddhism came out of Hinduism, and Hinduism is not a religion. It is connection to the sacred elements: earth, water, fire, ether. My third book is Shiva Speaks: Conversations with Mahavatar Babaji. Babaji gave rebirthing to the planet. He is the guru of gurus of the Yogananda lineage. Many people have read Autobiography of a Yogi, and it's all about, again, truth, simplicity, and love, and that energy. So when the Buddha, it was being in the sacred elements, and these elements, earth, water, fire, ether, are outside of us, and within us. And corona means the crown, and we are now to take back our sovereignty from the governments, from the outside energies, from the so-called new age gurus and teachers and whoever it is.
That's really interesting that corona means crown. Hey, we're about 2 minutes before we go to commercial. I'm really excited that you came on today, because today is the day that I think people really need to understand that we need to go within and put a stop to the outside influences that we have going on. So I'm really glad that you're here with me today, Rashmi.
The books are on Amazon and Kindle, so they're very easily available, and you can read them even on their telephones, on Nook and
yeah.
And
well, and I follow you on Facebook, and a lot of people can follow, and it's Rashmi, it's Rashmi, and it's Khilnani, it's Khilnani. And the book that we're discussing today is Buddha Speaks, and it's called To the Buddha Nature Within. And this is what Rashmi is talking to us about today, that we need to go within, and we need to find our center and connect with God, because what's been going on has been we've got about 1 minute to break, but what's been going on has been really evil in our world, isn't it, Rashmi?
Well, ultimately, good and evil are part of the same thing, but evil is just the opposite of live, which means, that it is a limitation and control of service to self as opposed to service to all, the highest good, free will, and the honoring of diverse opinions and views, even if we don't agree with them. And so, yeah, I have a page for Buddha Speaks, Shiva Speaks, and the Divine Mother Speaks on Facebook, and my film I God that I made with Neil Donald Walsh. So yeah, there's a lot.
We'll talk about that. Yeah, we'll talk about that more. Hey, we're going to break. This is Nancy Yearout. This is High Road to Humanity, and we'll be right back.
Hang on. We have more stories to tell on High Road to Humanity.
We're at commercial, Rashmi. Hey, I'm so glad you're with me today. Thanks for coming on and taking time. I really appreciate it.
What's happening on your end, where you are?
Well, yeah, we travel between New Mexico and Texas, and we're going to go back to Texas today, but there aren't so many cases where we're at in Texas. There's more in Albuquerque. I just haven't gone anywhere. I have a house here that I have to tend to and make sure everything's okay. But we're just being really careful, my husband and I. We're just going back home, and yeah, it's go ahead.
There's no lockdown all over America like we have in India.
There is lockdown in some states, New York, Michigan. My kids are in Michigan. There's lockdown there. There's lockdown different places, but not where I'm at. The things that are closed, like all the restaurants are closed. What's open you can do a drive-through, but I haven't even done that because I don't want to chance it. You know what I mean? All the stores are closed. The banks are open for drive-through and that type of thing. So.
And food and grocery shopping?
Yes, grocery stores are open. Now, in Texas, there's still things you can buy. You can't find toilet paper. In Michigan, where my daughters are, it's very difficult to buy any groceries.
Gosh. And isn't it lockdown?
I'm sorry?
Florida.
Yeah, they were talking about locking down Florida, but I don't know if the governor has done it yet or not. That was a problem. So I don't know what.
Is there a lot of fear kicking around? Obviously, yes.
Yeah, I think so, and that's why I keep posting things on Facebook. Because the fear is what causes a lot of trouble. Let's talk about that on our next segment as we're getting ready to come back. Let's talk about that, Rashmi. Ben, hello.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, we're about ready to come back.
Yes, we have 15 seconds.
All right, here we go, Rashmi. Let's talk about fear when we come back.
.com.
We want to thank you so much for listening to High Road to Humanity. This is where Nancy and her guests tell stories that will guide you and enlighten your mind and soul. Now welcome back to the High Road.
Hey, this is Nancy Yearout, and welcome back to High Road to Humanity. I'm here today with Rashmi Khilnani. She's written a wonderful book called Buddha Speaks, and we're talking about that today. And Rashmi's coming from New Delhi, India. And Rashmi, we were talking on the break about fear. There is a lot of fear in the world. Would you mind addressing that for us, please?
Yeah, the mind is always going to go into doubt and fear. And this whole collective initiation now at this wake up time is to do with, this photonic light coming on the planet. There's a lot of energy to wake up now because it is time. And that is moving from the mind to the heart energy. The Buddha was all about going into no mind energy or becoming the detached observer of the thoughts. And so
Right.
the mind is fear, but the fear is a lie. False evidence appearing real. Fear, false evidence appearing real. So it's like, instead face it and come and rise, so face it and rise is how you deal with fear. Now, when you become a meditator and you just become the observer of the breath or the observer of the thoughts without attaching to them, then or just observe the gap between the thoughts. Then you go into the higher octave of discernment, and you come out of judgment that causes all the suffering on earth. And
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because when people are judgy of other people, that's what causes problems. We need to just be open and accept people and things for how they are, correct? And let things flow.
Yeah, it's all about zero pointing everything now. And what does that mean? That means, coming to the center. The way the Buddha describes it in his wisdom is neti neti, neither this nor that. So if you go into deep meditation, you realize you're not just the body, and you're not your name, and you're not your country, and you're not your job, and you're not, you were never born, you didn't die. So all these things come to you in deep meditation. And then once you know that, then you can be all those things as well, and more so. But you become the observer, the detached observer. So yeah, it's about zero pointing everything, coming to that neutral point between, which is the fulcrum between the polarities of good, bad, right, wrong, birth, death, I like it, I don't like it.
Right, right.
That's peace is. That's where peace is. That's where joy is. That's where euphoria is. That's where what Buddha talked about, nirvana. I mean, he
Right.
didn't really talk much. He didn't talk that much.
Well, the thing is, he talks about going within, and he says you come to into a knowingness by practicing simplicity, silence, and the acceptance of what is in a given moment. And that says it to me. It just go back to our roots, go back to simplicity, because we've gotten so far away from simplicity. And that really hit me. And the other thing that Buddha said in your book that really hit home with me is that we're all Buddhas already. We're all already enlightened. We just forgot. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so that's what I was saying earlier. The game of snakes and ladders is up. Basically, we chose amnesia when we came down to Earth School, and
Right.
we are angelic humans, and we already are all that is. We are enlightened. But when we came down each time with each birth, we choose amnesia, and now it's time to wake up. So it's time to remember. It's time to remember who we be, and that is nothingness and everythingness at the same time. So Buddha was particularly good with understanding the void, which he called Mahamudra, which is total nothingness, and that is very scary, particularly for the Western mind.
Yes.
But you see, the world is becoming one now, and everybody's had past lives in all these different things. The Eastern people have had past lives in the West, and vice versa, and we are all one. And this time of the corona is getting people into that inner space, and that's where they're remembering simplicity. They're remembering what's really important, and what's really
Right.
important is love and the moment. Being in the now moment is what the Buddha talks about all the time, and that's what happens when you are present and you are aware of being, not being the mind, body, and the intellect, but being the detached witness of the mind,
Right.
the mind, body, and the intellect.
Yeah, no, it's hard to be the observer. And I read that and I understand what Buddha's talking about. He wants us to, everything that happens to us in life, he says to stay centered and just to be a witness of what's going on. And when you're a witness, then you don't have the reaction so much. It is what it is, you don't get angry, you still have joy,
It's
but
radical. No, it's radical acceptance. So in this time now, it's really important for people to accept what is, because the
right,
mind never does. The mind is always next, 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 and next doesn't exist. All we have, time and space are collapsing, and so these are man-made constructs. Time is a man-made construct, and all suffering comes within time. When you're in a state of meditation, or you're in a state of deep art, or deep running, or deep connection to nature, you go into timelessness. When you're in deep love with another being, or your lover, and you're just one with that energy, then there's everything dissolves. The body dissolves, past, future dissolve, and you're just in the now. And that's where the bliss is, that's where the nirvana is, that's where the joy is, and that's where enlightenment is. And we just have to remember that which we already are.
now, do you see, because of the coronavirus and everything that's going on and we're staying home, do you see us all getting to our enlightened state? How long will it take? What do you think before people all get there? Or if some of us don't get there, what happens to them?
Well, again, you're asking a question about the future, and I just said the future doesn't exist. So yeah, within three, we are multidimensional. So many people are moving from 3 to 4D. 4D is more the astral realm, the mental realm, and the lower aspects of that are very, very dark. The higher aspects, our psychic abilities and so on, that for the higher good. But basically, the plan, the experiment is to take all 8 billion with us within the 100 monkey morphogenics space. So, people
Okay.
like myself holding frequency for every human on the planet. But people have free will until they come to a space like I'm in, which is my life is not so much about free will. My life is one with divine will, because I feel I am source, and we are all source, but many have forgotten. And
Right.
so maybe a splitting of worlds. And so, but this, but Earth is now already ascended as of 2012, and so humans were given these grace years of 7 years to catch up. And so now every minute is going to be like 100 years. Time is just speeding up. Within the collapse, it's just going faster and faster till people get it and wake up. And unfortunately, most people wake up through suffering, which is what Buddha also did. He went into intense penance and so on, but then he
Right.
realized there's the middle part, which is a balanced way. And so the energies are all there. All we have to do is, ascension is happening for every human on the planet. We just have to allow it and get our minds out of the way. We just have to
Okay.
come to truth, simplicity, love, stillness, being, and the still point, and understanding our sovereignty and our unlimited nature.
Okay. I wrote down that in the book, he says, come from a loving space. This is what you're saying, of centeredness, in unity, oneness, non-judgmental. Because he says, and I love this part, he says, love is limitless. It can never become out of supply. And that's the truth. There's enough love for everyone and more. And then he goes on to say, love does not have to be earned. Love is given without the conditions of deserving or not deserving. Love just is. Love is who you are, and love is all that is.
And Earth School is all about learning to love oneself. So every single initiation that every human goes on through the story of their lives is to bring them to deeper aspects of self-love. And when one reaches that total space, because our religions, our teachers, our conditioning has taught us that it's wrong and bad to love yourself.
I know, isn't that crazy? That's crazy, Rashmi.
Yeah, it's been, everything has been upside down. So now it's time for it to come right side up. It's only when we love ourselves fully that we can love and respect and honor every other human on the planet. And that's happening more and more with each day. And, it's all about just relaxing and allowing and going with the flow of the river, as the Hopis say. It's like go with the flow, come to the center, give up the clinging. And Buddha talks about that a lot, is, be the detached witness, enjoy things, but if they go, let them go. Let them go. Because you are unlimited. Don't cling to just being this wave or that wave. You are the ocean. You are sky upon sky. Why are you being a limited jam jar,
I see. We've got about 1 minute before we go to break. And as you were saying before, everybody can pick up your books at Amazon.com. And you guys, she has The Divine Mother Speaks, Buddha Speaks, and we're going to have her back on the show because you've done a film that we're going to have you back on the show to talk about, yes?
The film is called I God the Film. I made it with Neil Donald Walsh. We've got Deepak Chopra, Mariam Williamson, James Van Praagh, myself, talking about the different paths to the divine, shamans, pagans, heads of different religious denominations. And we also have people of the street that we're asking the same 5 questions. What do you believe in, heaven or, do you believe in heaven and hell? Or what is the purpose of life, and so on. So it's a very deep film this quarantine time.
Hey, we got about 30 seconds, Rashmi. I'm going to have to stop you. And we'll have you back and we'll talk about that movie because I think it's a really cool thing that you did. You guys, we're here today with Rashmi Khilnani. She's coming to us from New Delhi, India. This is Nancy Yearout, and this is High Road to Humanity, and we'll be right back.
We'll be right back.
Rashmi, where can they see the movie?
It's also on Amazon. So
okay, I didn't know.
Okay. My 3rd book is Shiva Speaks, and then the film is I God. The best place to get I God is on Amazon as well.
Okay.
I mean, obviously there are many other platforms, but keep it simple.
Great. Okay. What can we? I want you to talk to people about what they can do to get to this, to go with the flow, to be more calm with all the fear and stuff. Can you help with that, Rashmi?
Yeah, I mean, if they get, we can cover that. I mean, the whole thing is when I speak, it's a transmission. So if people can listen to my radio shows, and I'll talk about it.
Well, okay. Just because, and I wrote down a lot I will tell you, I got so much out of this book. I mean, all the information that Buddha has, that you translated was great.
The thing with the books is that they're handbooks, and so you keep them by your bedside, and you can dip into just pick a page or connect with your heart, pick a page and just read a tiny part, and then be with those energies and allow it as a transmission, because the books have the energy behind the words to take you into those deep spaces of calm or zen, or help you remember very, very quickly.
We want to thank you so much for listening to High Road to Humanity. This is where Nancy and her guests tell stories that will guide you and enlighten your mind and soul. Now welcome back to the High Road.
Hey, welcome back to High Road to Humanity. And this is Nancy Yearout, your host. And I'm here today with Rashmi Khilnani. And we're talking about calming down and what Buddha has to say, and some of the information that was channeled. Rashmi channeled him and asked him many questions. And one thing that I wrote down and I want to talk about, the reason why meditation is so powerful, Buddha says, is that it creates space and time for the slowing down process. And Rashmi, I ask you, how do people slow down and go with the flow like you were talking about, and flow like a river or the ocean? What can we do?
The whole thing is that when human doings, we're human beings, and this international quarantine, this corona is making people get still and get within, you know, because
Hmm.
we're not doings, and it's everything is next in the States, you know, and
Right.
all of the and you know the even our technology has become so phonetic. So you know it's all about going back to being the divine child, like little children. You know they're very present in the moment with what they with you know they got their full attention on one thing, and you know practicing awareness and consciousness and becoming conscious. You know so there are hundreds of tools in the three books, Shiva Speaks, Buddha Speaks, and the Divine Mother Speaks, to you know give people the remembrance of very simple things that they may know but they don't embody. So if I know about meditation but I don't embody that state of pure presence and being present to you here now, then it doesn't mean anything. It's just knowledge as opposed to wisdom that is embodied. So we are all becoming embodied masters now, and so these books can help a lot because they have the energy behind the words and the handbook. So you can just pick a page and then just zone into one little part, and it will give you that energy of calm or peace, connecting to the
Right.
breath, with nature, slowing down, singing, chanting, meditating, praying, helping others, listening to others without judgment, watching the judgment.
Being more compassionate of other people, being kind. I think if we could all just be kind to each other, don't you think?
Yes, and that's what, you know, we're all bodhisattvas. The book was dedicated to bodhisattvas, which is, you know, we people like myself, we're reborn again and again, and we're going to be here till the suffering of every human on the planet is no longer a situation. And the only place that suffers, as we keep saying, is in the mind. When you're in that heart energy, that soul energy, even in the grounded body, you know, or fully present and fully connected. Nature helps very hugely with this. Then one, you know, the suffering of the mind totally dissolves, and you come into that bliss state. You come into that peace state. You come into that Zen state,
Right.
right? And
Right.
so, you know, I've done radio shows that are all there for free on my website, rashmikhilnani.com, on YouTube. If people just Google Rashmi Khilnani, Facebook, I post many different, you know, teachers and people. But you know, the wisdom of each soul, your own inner soul will guide you if you just make time to sit down and be still, or
Right.
walk at nature and be present and get off the gizmos every night.
Well, in the book, Buddha says, do you want to remain separate, limited, and controlling, or do you want to allow the essence, the real core of your being, its flowering, its oneness with all that is?
I definitely choose the latter.
Yeah. And you know, and that's the truth. It's like we have a choice. I think that's why I ask you what happens to the people who know to meditate and know to go within and then they don't. What you're saying to me is there is no time and space, and the whole idea is that eventually we'll all get to that point helping each other. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, yes. And so, you know, even if there's the worlds and there's one world where we'll have this non-stop, you know, polarity game going on forever, limitation and control, whereas the rest of us are ascending on this, you know, heaven on earth, new earth, Gaia frequency. The others will catch up and eventually we'll all be one because there is only one unified field of consciousness. So within that,
Right.
there are different games being played out. It's Maya, that's what Buddha called it, illusion, the grand illusion. And that's because ultimately the bedrock of everything comes from nothingness, black holes, 0 point. And that's
Right,
what
right. I
now.
read that. I wanted to stop you there a second. He talked about the black holes and he talked about manifestation. And the reason that there's nothingness is because you can't manifest from something. So the nothingness makes you manifest, right? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, just like like that's covered a lot in my first book, The Divine Mother Speak. The womb has to be empty for a baby to be born. The feminine energy is the receptive energy, so that the masculine energy can come through, and the two together is what then leads to the Shiv Shakti, or the creation energies. The Vajra Sattva and Vajra Saraswati in the different forms of Buddhism, and so on. So, stillness is what helps to create new realities. So now, instead of fixing the collapsing realities of what's going on around us, they are collapsing so that there is a rebirthing. And that rebirthing, you create that stillness, that silence, that nothingness, that not knowing. It's okay to be confused. It's okay not to know. None of us know what we don't know. And then from that, start imagining or dreaming in the new reality. All new realities come from that imagination.
Right. He says, just what you said, stillness and silence are the answer.
Absolutely. And that's not easy for humans, but this corona thing is forcing everybody into those spaces. And these energies will continue to force people into those spaces through illness, through suffering, through, the soul in each human now has one agenda, and that is to wake the personality self up. And that's why the soul, for the soul, there's no such thing as death and accidents and suffering. And they when it's time, then each person's soul is waking them up from within themselves.
Right. Well, and you say and he says simplicity is spiritual intelligence. Unity consciousness is the high truth, and it's who you are. And like you said in the very beginning, we forgot who we were. And as I read this, where he says it's time for humanity to wake up, Rashmi, I don't know if you know this, but my book that I wrote is called Wake Up. The universe is speaking to you. And and so every time you say wake up, I think, God, I was right on the money when I wrote that book. Come on, you guys, wake up, pay attention. And that's why I wrote it, because yeah, isn't that crazy? Because I'm like, wait a minute, wake up. I started to see the energy, and I started to see this stuff,
The thing is that, the best way that people wake up is not from us going around screaming for them to wake up. I mean, we're doing a radio talking about specific things. However, I don't go to wake up generally unless I'm guided. The way that people wake up is when each individual wakes up from within themselves, then wherever I go, my presence ignites.
Right.
And
the energy.
Either people get attracted to that or they run away. But even if they run away, they're still getting the blessing of that presence and that purity. Right. It's a purity of presence. It's embodied. It's not just talking about stuff. It's about embodied. And when we embody it, we don't have to go around running around like a lighthouse trying to save ships. The ships that are sinking will come to us and receive that light anyways. And ultimately, it's all one. It's all one. Nobody's higher or lower. It's all one energy. Everybody is us, on that level.
And once people realize that we aren't separate, that we're all one, that will make a difference too. And I think people have a hard time wrapping their heads around that, Rashmi.
Well, when there's a disaster and there's earthquakes, as in Idaho recently, then what happens is that whether a person is in their red sports car or they're, a slum dweller, everybody comes together and everybody shares their food. And that's what happens. So if people need to go through tons of suffering, but I always say to people, even in healing and all, I say, why not do it through laughter? Why not do it through thriving? Why not do it through the joy of the divine child? Why choose to suffer and suffer and suffer? And if you do choose that, well, then that is a choice.
Right, exactly.
Suffering on the planet is now over because time is over. Time has collapsed, and time is what causes suffering. The mind is everything to do with time. When you're in your no mind state, there is no time. There is only eternal now. And in that state, we are physical, immortal beings. We are sovereign. We are all that is. We are limited, and ultimately we come from nothingness. And there is no right or wrong, and no good and bad. And we are everything. I am the Buddha nature that I channeled. And it's not even a he or she. The soul is neither a he or a she. It's androgyne.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense. Now, when you are channeling this, when you channeled the book, did you ask Buddha? I know you asked Buddha specific questions, but then did he offer certain information that he felt was important as well?
Well, I actually wrote this book a long time ago now. For me, you know what I mean? It was 10 years ago,
Yeah,
around
yeah,
2010, 2011, I can't remember.
yeah,
So yeah, I mean, these are multidimensional books. Every time somebody reads a part of my books to me, and they're not my books. They're not my books. This whole thing of me, mine, I own, none of that exists. We
right,
all have the nature within us. We all
right,
have the wisdom within us. We all have the wisdom of the Divine Mother within us. Everything is within us. The whole universe that speaks to us, as in your book, it is within us. Everything begins from the within to the without. Everything begins from nothingness to everythingness. We are everythingness, but it begins with nothingness. And the
right.
Buddha understood that nothingness better than any of the great masters that walked the earth. And we are all becoming living masters. We're all becoming avataric beings, not just
Hmm.
two of us. All of us are becoming that. So just
As
allow
we,
it. Go ahead,
right,
process.
right. We've got about 1 minute to break, Rashmi, and I just think it's great. When we come back, I want to talk about, we touched on coming into the now and to being present in the moment. And I want to talk a little bit more about that. And I agree with what you're saying. We all are one, and there is no judgment, and there's no female or male. We're just really good energy, right? You guys, this is Nancy Year Out. I'm here today with Rashmi Khilnani. She's written a wonderful book. She's channeled this from Buddha, and it's called Buddha Speaks to Buddha's Nature Within. And we're going to talk some more about how to get to this point and how we're all getting to this point. And what a wonderful time it is to be on the planet. Let me just say that, huh, Rashmi?
Absolutely. It's the most exciting time.
We'll be right back with the High Road and more. Don't forget to visit Nancy's website.
Hey, Rashmi, what do you want to talk about?
Oh, we'll just let it flow. I never think. I'm never thinking when I
Okay.
when I do a painting, it happens. When I channel books, in 21 days, they get rattled out through my mouth. I don't think them. I
Right.
might just have okay, I'm going to today talk about love. So then, like that. And then, that's it. So the whole thing becomes a transmission through the conversation. But I mean, are you enjoying it so far? Because it's
I read the whole thing and I mean, it really inspired me because there are days.
are you enjoying our conversation now? Because this is not just about the book. It's about this moment now. What's happening on
Well,
the planet.
well, let's talk about that when we come back. I will tell you one thing though. I want to ask you this question. How did it take you a while to detach yourself and to watch things go on without being attached to it, like he talks about? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's lifetimes of stuff, right?
Hmm.
It's a journey, isn't it?
Well, yeah, because he says sit back and just be an observer. And I'm starting to do that. And that's not as easy as what you might think. We're getting ready to go back, but maybe we'll talk about that a little bit because that's half of it, to be centered and just observe what's going on around you. That takes a lot.
Yeah, yeah. Practice.
Practice, yeah. That's what I have to do. I have to practice, Rashmi. But I will tell you, it's motivated me to do my meditation every day, where some days I'll skip it, I'll get busy.
We want to thank you so much for listening to High Road to Humanity. This is where Nancy and her guests tell stories that will guide you and enlighten your mind and soul. Now welcome back to the High Road.
Hey, welcome back to High Road to Humanity, and this is Nancy, your host. And, I'm here today with Rashmi Khilnani, and we're talking about just what's happening in the world today. And I asked Rashmi, how do you, I will say that this book and you and your presence has really helped me, motivated me to meditate every day, where there's some days that I miss. And I was asking you on break how to be an observer, and you said with practice, yes?
Yeah, anything we practice for 21 days, which is what we do in Reiki, but in anything, 21 days is a magical number. And so you begin like that in baby steps. And then suddenly, now I don't sit down and, get into lotus position to meditate. My
Yeah.
every breath is meditation, generally speaking. Sometimes I get thrown back into 3D, when none of us have to be perfect. But it becomes a way of being, and then, it leads to greater and greater silence. And so then when one does speak, it's quite effective. And everything becomes simpler and more of a flow. And the days when I'm getting mental and I'm thinking about stuff, next, well, then I go back to being a 3D mess.
Right.
But it just allow that organic flow, and your heart and soul are guiding, then it becomes effortless eventually. And these energies now, what took many of us years and years and years, we did a lot of work, so it made the current waves of people waking up easier for you, for the new waves that are waking up one after another after another. It's becoming very, very instantaneous now, because the energies are so high, and because some of us have done so much work to make it easier for humanity.
Yeah, and I will attest to that. I will say that over the past couple of years, the more meditating I do, the more psychic I become, the more information. And so it's just like anything, the more you do it, the more in tune and the more in touch you become, and the more information you get, yes?
Yeah, the whole universe is within us. So when we become silent, then the current energies are allowing us to pull from wherever we need to, and at the same time, memory is being erased. So memory is all to do with the mind, and it's to do with past and future. In the now moment, we don't need memory, and so
Right.
within whatever I choose can be pulled. I don't even have to do research on it. I can just ask a question. And if I'm totally receptive, I will get a sense of knowingness. And that's through the feeling body. That's covered a lot in the first book, The Divine Mother
Mm-hmm.
Speaks the Human Heart, because that's all about energy. The Buddha energy is a lot about third eye and
Right.
discernment, you know.
Right.
Conversations with Mahavatar Babaji, the third book. These books are all about 2012 and this wake up time. I channel them specifically to help humans, in this time. And with these archetypal energies of the Divine Mother Shiva and the Buddha, which are within each and every one of us, and they're nothing to do with religion. So it's to do with wisdom teachings and the energies and consciousness and awareness and waking up.
Right. And also in the book, you wrote, if you love peace, come from a place of deep serenity and integrity. Begin by practice nonviolent thinking. So change your thoughts, change your life, pretty much is what you're saying here, or what Buddha had channeled to you.
Yeah, he very much taught the middle path, So, and that is so in keeping with the current 0 point energy that we ascension pioneers are going on and on about, What is that 0 point? It's a place of divine neutrality, you know. I put a post up saying, if you hate Trump or hate anything, then you hate yourself on some level, because everything is one. And
Right.
polarized comments on that. Somebody saying, well, I'm a light worker, so why are you judging me, and all this stuff. Not vis-a-vis me, but other people commenting on the post. And I said,
Yeah.
can I have no polarized comments on my post, please? And then it's interesting, because finally I just gave up, because I was explaining the difference between judgment and discernment, and there's a huge difference.
Well, explain it to us. Explain it to us, Rashmi.
Yeah. So judgment is polarized, and judgment is not neutral. And discernment, discernment is neutral. It will give the truth neutrally, and ultimately it will not condemn and damn the person. That
Got
doesn't
it.
mean that the judgment doesn't take place, as in justice doesn't take place, but there is also atonement. And then somebody wrote, oh, well, Trump or whoever it is irredeemable. And that's just not true. Everybody is innocent at soul level and is redeemable. And we've all been sinner and saint in past lives. We've all done everything. And we
Right.
all, so that's that middle part that the Buddha talks about, that neutral 0 point. But before we reach that, we have to sometimes feel our feelings. We have to feel our anger and so on. And all that is also covered in all three books on how to deal with anger and the so-called negative emotions that are not negative. They're just energy in motion and need to be allowed to move within the body.
I think, yeah, and I think one of the first things that people can do is to realize it's okay to love yourself. And I like Louise Hayes. She has a book out where you do the mirror talk, where you look at yourself in the mirror. And I'm saying this to the audience so that people can realize that if you can start doing some mirror work and look in the mirror and be able to tell yourself that you love yourself for just as you are, and look yourself right in the eye and say you love yourself, that is the beginning of loving yourself, and that's the beginning of this work. What do you think, Rashmi?
Absolutely. I try not to think. I try to just feel. Absolutely. This is what I teach most of my students and people that come to me is, look in the mirror every morning. That's your homework. Just to
Yeah,
brush teeth, and
yeah,
you just love every part. You love the dark. You love the light. You love the shadow. Everybody has a shadow, not just Trump. Everybody has a shadow in them. And so
mm-hmm.
and our leaders and people and project our nonsense onto others, it's time to stop that. It doesn't work, and it's going to backfire on people more and more and make them suffer more and more. On the other hand, the energies are so there, just little baby steps in loving yourself, and you'll totally light up and remember your enlightenment, and that of course you love yourself, and of course you're enough, and of course you're okay. But most people that come to me, including great masters and teachers, I look at them straight in the eye and I say, do you love yourself? Are you worthy? Do you feel you deserve everything? It's not the slum of heaven, it's the kingdom of heaven. So you don't have
Right,
to be spiritual. And everything is spiritual, not just the Buddha. Everything is spiritual. The
right,
dark, the light. The dark serves the light. Hitler taught us something. You know, ultimately, the virus is teaching us something very, very important, to go within, to clean up our environment, to stop running around in cars mindlessly, buying a whole lot of stuff we don't need.
right, right. Because it's not the stuff that makes us happy. It's inside. We make ourselves happy. And that's something that I've learned over time, and I know you have too, that we have to make ourselves happy. No outside material things or other people can make us happy. The joy comes from within.
Joy is our innate nature if we can just become the observer of the mind that takes us to suffering, limitation, control, judgment, fear, and all the other kinds of nonsense. So,
So when
joy,
so when we become afraid, so Rashmi, I want to ask you this. When we become afraid in our mind, how do we back up and just observe it and not feel it?
well, you have to feel it. Feel it. You have to feel it. Healing is feeling, covered in the first book, The Divine Mother Speaks, the healing of the
Okay.
human heart. So
All
healing
right.
is, you have to feel it, but you don't have to make a 365-day Broadway hit of the feeling. You feel it, you face it, and you come out the other side, and you
Okay.
realize that it's not real, that it is not telling the truth. It is just part of the monkey mind, and that's how you do it. You face it. So it's
You see
normal.
this. So you see, our people have to realize that we're in a play and this isn't real. And maybe if I say it that way for people to understand.
Yeah, it's a holographic reality, and basically, what attention plus intention equals manifestation, covered in the Divine Mother Speaks healing, universal law. So if my intention is heaven on earth, that's what I'm getting. That's what I'm
Got it.
experiencing. If my intention is, oh, life is shit and everybody's horrible, and I don't like that one. I don't like this country, that country. I don't like this leader, that. Then I'm going to keep getting dislike. I'm going to get judgment. I'm going to get people judging me. I'm not going to feel good enough. And I'm going to just be in hell. And the mind is hell. And the heart, soul, beingness, pure beingness. This energy of this virus is teaching everybody to be, as opposed to constantly judge and do and just create problems that don't exist.
I love it. You are so right on. Rashmi, it's so good to talk to you, and it's so good to hear this message. We've got about 2 minutes to the end of the show. You spread joy just by teaching us these things and helping us get to this place. You know, it's thank you for helping everybody so much.
God bless. You know, we're all in this together, and that divine child exists within all of us. Let's use this energy to play, to connect, to love, to share, to create the painting just for the sake of it, to write that song just for the sake of it. I just, paint or write or dance or speak or do radio, whatever I do, the multiple stuff, it comes from pure beingness. There is no thought with it. And it doesn't matter whether one person heard it or whether one person bought it or nobody did. It's just the joy of creation. That's heaven on earth. That's where we're all going. That's what we all are. The Garden of Eden is right here, and the divine children, us. Unless you become like a child, you cannot go through the eye of the needle.
So we have to become childlike. And that's what I always say. You have to be childlike in order to have faith. And so that makes a whole lot of sense. Hey, we've got about 1 minute to go. Rashmi, if people want to get in touch with you, how do they find you?
It's rashmikhilnani.com, RASHMIKHILNANI. The best place to stay in touch with me is Facebook, as Nancy said, and follow me on Facebook, and also my pages. I have a page on Facebook for Shiva Speaks, Divine Mother Speaks, and I God the Film.
Okay.
And the shows people can listen to on my website. So yeah, those are the basic ways.
Thanks for coming on today, you guys. We'll be seeing you next
on
week.
High Road for more stories filled with wisdom, love, and hope for our future.
Rashmi, it goes by too quick.
Thank you so much. Nancy, could you put a post just talking about this show and about the book and tag me on my wall as well?
Yes.
So that we both share something that goes out, and it's not about, as I said, how many likes or not. A lot of people read these and they get a lot out of it.
I agree.
Of conversation between two hearts, your heart and mine, because we are both serve others, and that energy goes out when we share like that. So maybe a picture of the book, and then just something about the radio show, and and the book, and this time.
I'll be happy to. And I'll share it on your wall. Okay.
If you ask Sarah to get you Shiva Speaks, that's very powerful.
I will.
Well, and the film, then we'll proceed.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I will. And be careful out there. You take care of yourself. You hear me?